Maya Rodriguez knelt beside the strange blue plant, carefully taking notes in her journal. The alien flower glowed softly in the dim light of New Terra's early morning. She had been studying these plants for 3 months now, and they still amazed her. Each one seemed to have its own personality, responding to touch and sound in ways that Earth plants never did. "Another early morning, Doc?" called out Jake Morrison as he walked past her research station. The security chief always made his rounds at sunrise, checking the colony's defenses. Maya looked up and smiled at him. Jake was a big man with kind eyes and calloused hands. He had been a Marine before coming to New Terra, and it showed in the way he carried himself. "These plants are most active at dawn," Maya explained, pointing to the glowing petals. "I think they use the morning light to communicate with each other." Jake stopped and crouched down beside her. "That's pretty amazing. Back on Earth, the only thing my garden plants did was die when I forgot to water them." Maya laughed. She liked Jake. He was one of the few people in the colony who actually listened when she talked about her work. Most of the miners and farmers thought her research was a waste of time. They were here to make money, not study alien flowers. "Maya, you should see this," called out Lisa Campbell from across the research camp. Lisa was an engineer who helped Maya with her equipment. She was pointing at her scanner, and her face looked worried. Maya and Jake hurried over to Lisa's workstation. The scanner showed dozens of red dots moving toward their colony. They were still far away, but getting closer fast. "What are those?" Maya asked. Jake's face went hard. "Ships, big ones." He grabbed his radio and spoke quickly into it. "All security teams, this is Morrison. We have incoming aircraft. Unknown origin. All civilians to the emergency shelters. Now." The colony alarm began to wail across New Terra. People ran from their homes and workstations, heading for the underground shelters that had been built when the colony was first established. Maya had never thought they would actually need them. "Doc, you need to get to the shelter," Jake said, but Maya shook her head. "I'm not leaving my research. These plants are too important." "Your life is more important than plants," Jake said firmly. "Lisa, get Maya to safety. I need to coordinate the defense." The first alien ship appeared over the horizon like a black knife cutting through the sky. It was huge, at least 3 times bigger than any human ship Maya had ever seen. The hull was covered in spikes and armor plating that looked like scales. More ships followed, casting dark shadows over the colony. Lisa grabbed Maya's arm. "We have to go now," but it was too late. Beams of red light shot down from the ships, hitting the ground all around them. Where the beams touched, the earth turned to glass. Maya watched in horror as one beam hit the main power station. The building exploded in a shower of sparks and metal. Figures began dropping from the ships on ropes of light. They were tall and covered in green scales, with yellow eyes and long claws. Each one carried a weapon that looked like a cross between a rifle and a sword. Maya had never seen anything like them. Jake's voice crackled over the radio. "All teams fall back to position 2. Repeat, fall back to position 2. The defense wasn't going well. Maya could hear gunfire from all directions, but the human weapons seemed to barely scratch the alien attackers. The scaled creatures moved too fast and their armor was too strong. One of the aliens landed near Maya's research station. It looked at her with those terrible yellow eyes and made a sound like a snake laughing. It spoke into a device on its wrist, and Maya somehow understood the words. "Found a female. Looks intelligent. The arena will pay well for this one." "Arena?" Maya's blood went cold. She had heard stories about alien slave markets, but she had hoped they were just rumors. Lisa tried to pull Maya toward the shelter, but more aliens surrounded them. They moved like hunters, cutting off every escape route. Maya realized with growing terror that this wasn't a random attack. These creatures were hunting humans. Jake appeared suddenly, firing his rifle at the aliens. 2 of them fell, but more kept coming. He fought like a man possessed, using every trick he had learned in the Marines. Maya watched in amazement as he took down alien after alien, but there were just too many of them. "Run!" Jake shouted at Maya and Lisa. "Get to the shelter!" Maya wanted to run, but her legs wouldn't move. She was frozen with fear, watching Jake fight for their lives. The big security chief moved like a dancer, dodging alien claws and energy blasts. But even he couldn't fight forever. An alien weapon hit Jake in the shoulder, spinning him around. He kept fighting, but Maya could see he was hurt. Blood ran down his arm and his movements were getting slower. "Enough," said a voice like grinding stone. The largest alien Maya had seen yet walked into the clearing. It wore more armor than the others and its scales were darker. When it spoke, all the other aliens stopped fighting. "This human fights well," the leader said, looking at Jake. "He will bring a good price in the gladiator pits." "No," Maya said, finding her voice at last. "Leave him alone." The alien leader turned those yellow eyes on her. "And this one has spirit. Yes, she will do very well in the arena games." Maya didn't understand what arena games meant, but she knew it was nothing good. The aliens used some kind of energy net to capture Jake, Lisa, and her. The net made her muscles stop working, and she fell to the ground like a rag doll. As the aliens carried them toward their ships, Maya saw the colony burning below. Smoke rose from dozens of buildings. Some humans had made it to the shelters, but many others were being loaded onto the alien ships like cargo. Jake was unconscious, blood still flowing from his shoulder wound. Lisa was crying quietly. Maya wanted to cry too, but anger was stronger than fear now. These aliens had destroyed her home, her research, and her life. Somehow she was going to make them pay for it. The alien ship was dark and cold inside. Maya, Jake, and dozens of other humans were locked in metal cages barely big enough to stand up in. The air smelled like rust and something else Maya didn't want to think about. As the ship lifted off from New Terra, Maya pressed her face against the small window in her cage. Her beautiful alien plants were just tiny dots of blue light getting smaller and smaller. She didn't know where the aliens were taking them, but she promised herself that she would survive whatever came next, and somehow she would find a way to get home. The alien ship traveled for 3 days before reaching its destination. Maya had barely slept during the journey. The cage was too small to lie down properly, and the alien guards gave them very little food or water. Jake's shoulder wound had gotten infected, and he spent most of the trip fighting a fever. When the ship finally stopped, Maya looked out her small window and gasped. They were docked at a massive space station that looked like a giant metal spider floating in space. Hundreds of ships were attached to it, and bright lights flashed across its surface like a twisted carnival. "Welcome to the Crimson Coliseum," said one of the scaled aliens as they opened the cages. "Your new home." The aliens dragged Maya and the other humans through corridors filled with creatures she had never seen before. There were beings with 6 arms and purple skin, others that looked like walking plants, and some that were just clouds of gas floating in metal suits. All of them stared at the humans with curiosity or hunger. Maya tried to stay close to Jake, but the aliens separated them at a large metal door. A guard with darker scales than the others pointed at Jake. "Male fighters go that way," the guard said. "Females go to the prize-holding area." "Wait!" Maya called out as they dragged Jake away. "Where are you taking him?" Jake looked back at her, his eyes still bright with fever. "I'll find you," he promised. "Stay strong." Then he was gone, and Maya felt more alone than she had ever felt in her life. The prize-holding area was a large room filled with cages, but at least these were big enough to sit down in. Maya was pushed into a cage next to a creature that looked like a blue-skinned woman with 4 arms. The creature was crying, making soft musical sounds that somehow Maya knew meant sadness. "First time?" asked a voice from another cage. Maya turned to see a young human woman with short red hair and intelligent green eyes. "I'm Lisa Campbell. I was on the ship with you." "Maya Rodriguez," Maya replied, relieved to see a familiar face. "Do you know what this place is?" Lisa nodded grimly. "I've been listening to the guards talk. This is an arena where different species fight for entertainment. The winners get money and fame. The losers die." Maya felt sick. "And we're supposed to fight?" "No," said another voice. An older woman in the next cage leaned closer. She had been here longer than Lisa, Maya could tell. Her clothes were dirty and her hair was matted. "We're prizes. They throw us into the arena with the fighters, and we're supposed to run and scream while they hunt us." The woman's words hit Maya like a physical blow. "Hunt us?" "It's sport to them," the woman continued. "The crowd loves watching helpless creatures get torn apart by gladiators. Sometimes they give us weapons, but we're not trained fighters. We don't stand a chance." Maya looked around at the other cages. Most of the prisoners were small, peaceful-looking creatures. None of them looked like they could hurt anyone, let alone fight trained gladiators. "How long have you been here?" Maya asked the older woman. 6 months. I was lucky. A gladiator claimed me as his protected prize after my 3rd hunt. As long as he keeps winning, I stay alive." Maya didn't understand. "Protected prize?" "It's an old rule," the woman explained. "If a gladiator wins enough fights, he can claim one prize as his property. The gladiator has to fight extra battles to keep his prize, but it's better than being hunted." Lisa leaned closer to Maya. Your friend Jake. Do you think he could become a gladiator? Maya thought about Jake fighting the aliens back on New Terra. He had been outnumbered 10-1, but he had still fought like a warrior. Maybe he's strong and smart, but I don't know if that's enough. For the next 2 days, Maya watched and learned. The guards brought new prisoners every few hours. Some were sold immediately to wealthy aliens who wanted exotic pets. Others were sent to different parts of the station for purposes Maya didn't want to think about. The worst part was hearing the arena fights through the walls. The crowd would roar and cheer while creatures screamed and died for their entertainment. Maya had always believed that intelligent life would be peaceful and civilized. The Crimson Coliseum was teaching her how wrong she had been. On the 3rd day, the guards came for Maya. "You," one of them said, pointing at her with a clawed finger. "The crowd wants to see how a human dies." They dragged her through more corridors to a large room filled with weapons and armor. Most of it was too big for her, but she found a small knife and a shield that she could lift. The weapons were old and dull, but they were better than nothing. 5 minutes until the hunt begins, a guard announced. Try to make it entertaining. Maya was pushed into a bright tunnel that led to the arena floor. Her heart was beating so fast she thought it might explode. She could hear the crowd cheering on the other side of the tunnel. Thousands of alien voices calling for blood. The arena was huge, with sand covering the floor and tall walls rising up to seats filled with creatures from across the galaxy. Bright lights shone down like artificial suns. In the center of the arena was a maze of metal walls and obstacles where the hunt would take place. "Ladies and gentlemen," boomed a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Today we present a rare treat, a human female captured from the outer colonies. Watch as she faces the deadly Valkyrie assassin." Maya's opponent entered the arena from the opposite tunnel. It looked like a giant spider the size of a horse with gleaming black chitin and 8 legs that ended in razor-sharp points. Its multiple eyes focused on Maya with cold intelligence. The crowd went wild, cheering and placing bets on how long Maya would last. Most seemed to think she would die in less than a minute. Maya gripped her knife and shield tighter. She had studied alien biology for years, and she knew that Valkyrie were fast but not very smart. They relied on speed and poison to kill their prey. If she could avoid the poison and find a way to slow it down, she might have a chance. "Let the hunt begin," the announcer shouted. The Valkyrie assassin moved faster than Maya had expected, scuttling across the sand like black lightning. She barely got her shield up in time to block its first attack. The creature's claws scraped against the metal, sending sparks flying. Maya ran toward the maze of obstacles, hoping to use them for cover. The Valkyrie followed, its 8 legs carrying it over and around barriers that Maya had to climb or squeeze through. But that gave her an idea. She remembered studying Valkyrie anatomy in school. Their joints were strong but inflexible. They couldn't make sharp turns at high speed without losing their balance. Maya waited until the creature was running straight at her, then dove to the side at the last second. The Valkyrie crashed into a metal wall, stunning itself for a few seconds. Maya used that time to climb onto a platform where she would have the high ground. The crowd was surprised. They had expected her to die quickly, but she was actually fighting back. Maya could hear confusion in their voices as they watched her dodge and weave around the arena. For 30 minutes, Maya played a deadly game of cat and mouse with the Valkyrie. She used every trick she could think of, remembering everything she knew about alien biology and arena layout. The creature was getting frustrated, making more and more mistakes, but Maya was getting tired too. Her legs felt like they were made of lead, and her shield arm was going numb from blocking the creature's attacks. She couldn't keep this up much longer. Then she heard a new voice from the gladiator section of the arena. "Come on, Doc. You can do this." It was Jake. Maya looked up and saw him standing at the edge of the gladiator pit, his shoulder bandaged but his eyes bright with determination. Seeing him alive gave her new strength. "I claim her," Jake shouted loud enough for the whole arena to hear. "Under the law of protected prize, I claim the human female." The arena went silent. Then the announcer's voice boomed out again. "The human gladiator claims protection rights, very well. But first he must prove himself worthy by fighting 3 consecutive battles without rest or medical care." Maya watched in horror as guards surrounded Jake. 3 battles in a row would kill him, even if he was healthy. With his injured shoulder, it was suicide. But Jake looked down at her and smiled. "I told you I'd find you," he called out. "And I keep my promises." As the guards led Jake away, Maya finally understood what it meant to have someone willing to die for you. She also understood that she couldn't let that happen. Somehow she had to find a way to help Jake survive what was coming next. Jake's first punishment fight was against a creature called a bone crusher. It stood 9 feet tall and had arms like tree trunks. Its skin was gray and hard like stone, and when it moved, the ground shook under its feet. Maya watched from a special viewing area reserved for protected prizes. Her hands gripped the metal railing so tightly her knuckles turned white. Jake looked so small compared to his opponent, and she could see that his shoulder was still causing him pain. The fight began with the bone crusher charging at Jake like an angry bull. Jake rolled to the side just in time, but the creature's massive fist left a crater in the sand where he had been standing. Maya held her breath as Jake danced around his opponent, too tired and hurt to fight the way he normally would. But Jake was smart. Instead of trying to match the creature's strength, he used its size against it. When the bone crusher charged again, Jake grabbed a handful of sand and threw it in the creature's eyes. While it was blinded, Jake climbed onto its back and found the weak spot where the skull met the neck. One precise strike was all it took. The bone crusher fell like a cut tree and the crowd roared their approval. Jake had won, but Maya could see he was struggling to stay on his feet. The second fight came immediately after. This time Jake faced a pack of 6 wolf-like creatures with metal teeth and claws. They moved as a team, trying to surround him and attack from all sides. Maya watched Jake fight with growing fear. He was moving slower now, and blood was seeping through the bandage on his shoulder. The wolf creatures sensed his weakness and pressed their attack harder. "Come on, Jake," Maya whispered. "You can do this." Jake seemed to hear her somehow. He grabbed a broken piece of arena equipment and used it as both weapon and shield. When the wolves attacked together, he spun in a circle, striking out with the metal bar. 3 of the creatures fell before the others could react. The remaining wolves were more careful now, but Jake had learned their pattern. He waited for them to attack, then moved at exactly the right moment to turn their own momentum against them. Soon, all 6 wolves lay still in the sand. But Jake was barely standing when the third fight began. His opponent was something Maya had never seen before. It looked like a man made of living shadow, with glowing red eyes and claws that seemed to cut through the air itself. This fight was different from the others. The shadow creature didn't rely on strength or speed. It used fear as a weapon, making Jake see things that weren't there. Maya watched in horror as Jake swung at empty air while the real enemy attacked from behind. The shadow creature's claws raked across Jake's back, opening new wounds. Jake fell to his knees and Maya thought it was over, but then Jake did something that surprised everyone in the arena. He closed his eyes. "You can't scare what you can't see," Jake said loud enough for Maya to hear. He stopped trying to track the creature with his eyes and started listening instead. When the shadow moved, it made a soft whooshing sound like wind through trees. Jake waited, perfectly still, until the creature attacked again. Then he moved like lightning, grabbing the shadow by what might have been its throat. For a moment, the creature became solid and Jake's knife found its heart. The arena erupted in cheers as the shadow creature dissolved into nothing. Jake had won all 3 fights, but the cost was terrible. He collapsed in the sand, blood pooling beneath him. Guards carried Jake to the medical bay and Maya was allowed to visit him there. She had never seen anyone look so broken and still be alive. Machines beeped around his bed and tubes fed medicine into his body. "Hey, Doc," Jake whispered when he saw her. His voice was rough and weak. "Told you I'd keep my promise." Maya felt tears running down her cheeks. "You idiot. You almost died." "But I didn't," Jake said with a weak smile. "And now you're safe. That's what matters." Maya spent the next 3 days taking care of Jake while he recovered. The medical bay was small and crowded, but it was the first place Maya had felt safe since arriving at the arena. She learned how to change bandages and mix medicine. More importantly, she and Jake learned about each other. Jake told her about his time as a Marine, about friends he had lost in battles on distant worlds. He talked about his guilt over not being able to save everyone on New Terra. Maya could see that carrying that guilt was harder for him than any physical wound. Maya shared her dreams of exploring the galaxy and studying alien life. She talked about her parents back on Earth and how she had always believed that science could bring different species together in peace. The arena was teaching her that the universe was more complicated than she had hoped. "You know what's funny?" Jake said one evening as Maya checked his bandages. "Before I met you, I thought scientists were all soft. People who studied books while real people did the fighting." Maya smiled, And now? Now I know that thinking can be just as brave as fighting, maybe braver. On the fourth day, Maya met Carlos Vega. He was another human who had been captured 6 months earlier. Carlos was a gladiator now, and he had survived longer than most by being smart and careful. "Your friend is famous," Carlos told Maya as they sat in the gladiator rest area. "Word is spreading about the human who beat 3 opponents in a row while wounded. Some of the other gladiators are scared of him." "Good," Maya said. "Maybe they'll leave him alone." Carlos shook his head. "That's not how it works here. Fear makes enemies, not friends. Jake needs to be careful. There are gladiators here who will try to kill him just to prove they're not afraid." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. "What can we do?" "Learn the game," Carlos said. "This place has rules even if they're not written down. The gladiators who survive longest are the ones who understand the politics as well as the fighting." Carlos introduced Maya to other humans who worked in different parts of the arena. There was Lisa Campbell, who had been assigned to the engineering crews. She knew about the station's power systems and security networks. There was Danny Foster, a teenager who was good with computers and had managed to hack into some of the arena's information systems. "The guards think humans are stupid," Lisa explained during one of their secret meetings. "They don't watch us as carefully as they should." "We can use that." Maya began to see possibilities. "You mean we could escape?" "Maybe," Carlos said. "But it would take planning. And luck. Lots of luck." Over the next week, Maya split her time between caring for Jake and learning about the arena. She discovered that the station was run by Overlord Thakmor, a massive insect-like creature that fed on the fear and pain of the gladiators. The crowd that watched the fights came from all over the galaxy, paying huge amounts of money to see exotic creatures kill each other. But Maya also learned about the arena's weaknesses. The energy shields that kept prisoners in their cells operated on a specific frequency. The guard rotations followed a predictable pattern. Most importantly, there were other species in the arena who hated the system as much as the humans did. Jake recovered faster than the doctors expected. Within 2 weeks, he was back on his feet and training for his next fight. But he was different now. The 3 punishment fights had changed him, made him harder and more focused. "I'm going to keep you safe," he told Maya. "Whatever it takes." Maya believed him. But she also knew that keeping her safe wasn't enough anymore. There were dozens of other humans in the arena, and hundreds of other innocent creatures who deserved freedom just as much as she did. "Jake," she said one evening as they sat together in the gladiator quarters, "what if we could free everyone? Not just escape ourselves, but shut this whole place down?" Jake looked at her with surprise. "That's impossible, Doc. This place is too big, too well guarded." "Maybe," Maya said. "But I've been thinking about it like a science problem. Every system has a weakness. Every organism has a way to kill it. We just have to find the right approach." Jake was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled, the first real smile Maya had seen from him since the punishment fights. "You know what?" he said. "Maybe you're right. Maybe it's time to stop just surviving and start fighting back." Maya felt something new growing inside her. It wasn't hope exactly, but it was close. For the first time since arriving at the arena, she began to think they might actually have a chance. But first, Jake had to face his next opponent. And this one was going to be the biggest challenge yet. The news spread through the arena like wildfire. Overlord Thakmor had decided to make an example of the humans. Maya would be forced into the Grand Hunt, a week-long event where multiple prizes were hunted by the arena's deadliest gladiators. The twist that made Maya's blood run cold was that Jake was forbidden from participating. He would be locked in his cell, forced to watch helplessly as she faced impossible odds. "This is my fault," Jake said, pacing back and forth in the small meeting room where the humans gathered. His hands were clenched into fists and Maya could see the guilt eating at him. "I made us too visible. Now they want to break us." "No," Maya said firmly. "This is exactly what we've been preparing for. We knew they would try something like this eventually." Over the past month, Maya and the other humans had been secretly organizing. Lisa Campbell had mapped the arena's power systems and found several critical weak points. Danny Foster had hacked into the guard rotation schedules and prisoner transport systems. Rebecca Adams, a pilot who had been captured 3 weeks ago, had been teaching other prisoners how to fight and work as a team. "The Grand Hunt isn't just about me," Maya continued. "It's about all of us. They want to show the galaxy that humans are weak and helpless. We're going to prove them wrong." Carlos Vega shook his head. Maya, you don't understand. The Grand Hunt uses the entire lower level of the station. It's a maze filled with traps and weapons. The gladiators hunting you will be the best fighters from across the galaxy. No prize has ever survived more than 2 days. Then I'll be the first, Maya said. She looked around at the faces of her fellow humans. We've been planning for this. Every system we've studied, every weakness we've found, every ally we've made. This is our chance to show everyone in the arena that humans don't give up. The preparation for the Grand Hunt took 3 days. Maya used every moment to get ready. Lisa taught her about the station's layout and how to disable security systems. Danny showed her how to hack into communication networks and coordinate with allies. Rebecca trained her in combat tactics and survival skills. But the most important preparation happened in Maya's mind. She had to become someone different from the scared scientist who had been captured on New Terra. She had to become a leader. Remember, Jake said on the night before the hunt began, you're not just fighting for yourself. You're fighting for every human in this place, for every creature that's been treated like an animal for the entertainment of monsters. Maya nodded. She could see the pain in Jake's eyes. Being forced to watch while she risked her life was torture for him. But she also saw something else. Pride. He believed in her. The Grand Hunt began at dawn on the first day. Maya was released into the lower level along with 20 other prizes from different species. Most of them were terrified, running blindly through the maze of corridors and chambers. But Maya moved with purpose. She had memorized the layout Lisa had given her. More importantly, she had spent weeks building relationships with prisoners from other species. Many of them had been assigned to work crews throughout the station, and they had agreed to help when the time came. The first gladiator Maya encountered was a Korthax warrior, like the ones who had captured her on New Terra. It was faster and stronger than any human, but Maya had advantages it didn't expect. She led it into a trap she had prepared using the station's own defense systems against it. By the end of the first day, 3 gladiators were dead, and Maya was still alive. The crowd was confused and excited. This wasn't going according to plan. On the second day, Maya began implementing the real plan. Using Danny's hacked communication system, she coordinated with allies throughout the station. Maintenance workers began sabotaging key systems. Kitchen staff started putting sleeping drugs in the guards' food. Other prisoners began small acts of rebellion that distracted attention from Maya's activities. Jake watched from his cell as Maya turned the Grand Hunt into something no one had ever seen before. Instead of running and hiding, she was hunting the hunters. She used her knowledge of alien biology and psychology to predict their behavior and set traps they couldn't escape. But the real shock came on the third day when Maya made contact with sympathetic aliens in the audience. Not everyone who came to the arena enjoyed watching innocent creatures die. Some were there because they had no choice or because they were looking for ways to undermine the system. This is impossible, Overlord Thakmore raged from his control center. How is one human female causing so much trouble? The answer was that Maya wasn't alone. She had become the center of a growing rebellion that included humans, aliens, and even some of the gladiators who were tired of being forced to kill for entertainment. On the fourth day, the rebellion went public. Maya managed to hack into the arena's broadcast system and spoke directly to the galaxy-wide audience. "My name is Maya Rodriguez," she said, her voice carrying to millions of beings across known space. "I am a human scientist who was captured and brought here against my will. For months I have watched innocent creatures die for your entertainment. I have seen children torn apart by monsters while crowds cheered. I have seen the worst that civilization has to offer." Maya paused, looking directly into the camera. "But I have also seen something else. I have seen that there are beings in this galaxy who still believe in justice, who still believe that all intelligent life deserves freedom and dignity. Today we fight not just for our own lives, but for the idea that might can never make right." The broadcast was cut off, but it was too late. Maya's words had reached every corner of the galaxy. On dozens of worlds, people began demanding that their governments shut down the arena. Stock prices for companies that supported the gladiator industry began to crash. But Overlord Thakmore wasn't finished. On the fifth day, he released all the arena's deadliest gladiators into the hunt at once. 20 of the most dangerous fighters in the galaxy, all focused on killing one human woman. Maya knew she couldn't fight them all directly. Instead, she led them into the station's central power core, where Lisa Campbell was waiting with a surprise. The engineer had rigged the entire system to overload, but in a controlled way that would disable the arena's defenses without destroying the station. "You want to see how humans really fight?" Maya asked as the gladiators surrounded her. "We don't fight for glory or money or the entertainment of others. We fight for each other." The power core exploded in a blaze of light and electricity. When the smoke cleared, the arena's shields were down, its weapons were offline, and its communication systems were chaos. Maya was unconscious but alive, protected by a makeshift shelter Lisa had built around the core. But the biggest shock was still to come. As emergency power flickered on throughout the station, Jake's cell door opened. Carlos Vega stood there with a keycard and a grim smile. "The guards are distracted," Carlos said. "Time to finish what Maya started." Jake didn't hesitate. For days, he had been forced to watch the woman he cared about risk her life while he could do nothing. Now, finally, he could act. But as they made their way through the chaotic station toward Maya's location, Jake discovered something that made his blood run cold. Carlos had been working with the arena officials all along, feeding them information about human activities in exchange for better treatment. "Why?" Jake asked as Carlos led him into what was obviously a trap. "Because I wanted to live," Carlos said. "Because I was tired of being hungry and afraid and watching friends die every day. They offered me a chance to be a guard instead of a prisoner. All I had to do was betray people I barely knew." Jake understood then that the real enemy wasn't always the obvious one. Sometimes it was the person standing next to you, the one you trusted. But he also understood something else. Maya had been right about the power of fighting for others instead of yourself. "You know what, Carlos?" Jake said as arena guards surrounded them. "I feel sorry for you. Because you'll never understand what you gave up." As they dragged Jake away to face whatever punishment Overlord Thakmor had planned, he could hear the sounds of fighting throughout the station. Maya's rebellion was spreading, and nothing would ever be the same. The final phase of their fight for freedom was about to begin. Maya woke up in the medical bay with her head pounding and her ears ringing. Lisa Campbell was sitting beside her bed, and the relief on her face told Maya everything she needed to know about how close she had come to dying. "How long was I out?" Maya asked, trying to sit up. 2 days, Lisa replied. "The power core explosion knocked out half the station systems. But Maya, we did it. The rebellion is spreading everywhere." Maya looked around the medical bay. Instead of the usual mix of wounded gladiators and terrified prisoners, she saw humans and aliens working together to treat injuries and organize supplies. The atmosphere was completely different from the fear and desperation she remembered. "Where's Jake?" Maya asked. Lisa's expression darkened. "Overlord Thakmor has him. After Carlos betrayed us, they captured Jake and announced something called the Tournament of Champions. If Jake doesn't fight and win, they're going to execute every human on the station." Maya felt her heart sink. Even in her weakened state, she could see the trap. Thakmor was using Jake's protective instincts against him, forcing him to fight an impossible battle to save the people he cared about. "What's the Tournament of Champions?" Maya asked. 3 fights against the deadliest gladiators in the galaxy," said Danny Foster, who had just entered the medical bay. "Scarthon the Deathbringer, Velnash the Mind Ripper, and Gorath Prime. No one has ever beaten all 3 and lived." Maya struggled to her feet despite Lisa's protests. "Then we have to make sure Jake doesn't face them alone." Over the next day, Maya coordinated the final phase of their rebellion. The humans had learned a lot during their time in the arena, and they had made allies among dozens of other species. More importantly, Maya's broadcast during the Grand Hunt had inspired uprisings on stations and worlds throughout the galaxy. Rebecca Adams had taken command of a group of freed gladiators who had joined the rebellion. Danny Foster had completely taken over the station's computer systems. Even some of the guards had switched sides, tired of serving a system that treated all life as disposable. But the key to their plan was something only Maya could do. She had to get close enough to the arena's central control system to shut down the barriers that kept the different sections of the station separated. If she could do that, their allies throughout the station could join the final battle. The Tournament of Champions began at noon on the 3rd day. Maya watched from the control room she had secretly infiltrated as Jake entered the arena. He looked determined but tired. The past weeks of fighting and stress had worn him down, and Maya could see that he was running on pure willpower. Jake's first opponent was Scarthon the Deathbringer, a massive reptilian creature covered in bone spikes and battle scars. It had been undefeated for 5 years and had killed over 200 gladiators. The crowd expected Jake to die within minutes, but Jake had learned more than just fighting skills during his time in the arena. He had learned how to think like Maya, analyzing his opponents and looking for weaknesses instead of just trying to overpower them. Scarthon was incredibly strong and tough, but it was also overconfident. It had won so many easy fights that it had stopped being careful. Jake used that against it, letting the creature think it was dominating the fight while he studied its patterns and weaknesses. When Jake finally struck, it was with surgical precision. One perfectly placed blow to a nerve cluster at the base of Scarthon's skull, and the mighty gladiator collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. The crowd was stunned. Even Maya was amazed at how quickly Jake had ended the fight. But she could see that it had cost him. He was favoring his left leg and there was fresh blood on his bandages. Jake's second opponent was even more dangerous. Velnash the Mind Ripper was a psychic creature that looked like a floating jellyfish made of living crystal. It attacked the mind instead of the body, driving its opponents insane with fear and hallucinations. Maya watched in horror as Jake began swinging at empty air. His face twisted with terror as the Mind Ripper showed him his worst nightmares. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of fighting the visions, Jake embraced them. "I've already lived through my worst nightmares," Jake said loud enough for the entire arena to hear. "Watching friends die while I was powerless to help them. Watching innocent people suffer while I could do nothing. You can't scare me with things I've already survived." The Mind Ripper's attack faltered, confused by an opponent who wasn't afraid of his own fears. Jake used that moment of hesitation to strike, his knife finding the creature's core and shattering it like glass. But Maya could see that Jake was reaching his limit. 2 impossible fights in a row had pushed him beyond what any human should be able to endure, and his final opponent was the worst yet. Goroth Prime entered the arena like a walking nightmare. It had once been a member of some unknown species, but cybernetic implants and genetic modifications had turned it into something that was more machine than living creature. Its metal claws could cut through steel, its artificial muscles gave it superhuman strength, and its computer brain calculated the perfect killing move for any situation. "This is it," Maya whispered to herself as she worked frantically at the control console. "If I can't get these barriers down in the next few minutes, Jake is going to die." The fight between Jake and Goroth Prime was unlike anything the arena had ever seen. It wasn't just a battle between 2 warriors. It was a clash between human determination and cold mechanical perfection. Goroth Prime should have won easily. It was faster, stronger, and more heavily armed than Jake. But Jake had something the machine couldn't calculate. He had people worth fighting for. Every time Goroth Prime knocked him down, Jake got back up. Every time the machine seemed to gain an advantage, Jake found a way to turn it around. He fought not just with his body but with his heart, drawing strength from his love for Maya and his determination to protect the innocent. Maya finally broke through the arena's security systems, just as Jake and Goroth Prime grappled in the center of the arena. The barriers throughout the station came down all at once, and suddenly the arena was flooded with freed prisoners, rebellious guards, and alien allies who had been waiting for this moment. But the battle wasn't over yet. Overlord Thakmor wasn't going to let his empire fall without a fight. The massive insectoid creature activated the station's self-destruct system, preferring to destroy everything rather than lose control. "Attention all beings," Thakmor's voice boomed throughout the station. "In 10 minutes, this station will be destroyed. There is no escape. We will all die together." Maya faced the biggest choice of her life. She could use the escape pods that Rebecca had prepared to get the humans to safety, or she could stay and try to save the thousands of other prisoners who would die when the station exploded. "Go," Jake said over the communication system. He was still fighting Goroth Prime, but Maya could hear the exhaustion in his voice. "Get our people out of here." "That's an order." "Since when do I take orders from you?" Maya replied, her fingers flying over the control console. "I'm not leaving without everyone, including you." Working with Danny's help, Maya began the most complex hack of her life. She had to override the self-destruct system, while simultaneously controlling the station's navigation systems to move it away from populated areas. If she failed, millions of beings on nearby worlds would die along with everyone on the station. In the arena below, Jake finally found his chance. Goroth Prime's mechanical perfection was also its weakness. It couldn't adapt to unexpected situations the way a living being could. When Jake did something completely irrational, throwing away his weapons and tackling the machine barehanded, Gorth Prime's programming couldn't process the move fast enough to counter it. Jake's hands found the machine's main power coupling and tore it loose. Gorth Prime froze mid-strike, its systems shutting down one by one. The arena erupted in cheers as the unbeatable champion fell, but the celebration was short-lived. The self-destruct countdown reached 5 minutes, and Maya still hadn't broken through the final security protocols. "I need more time," Maya said, sweat dripping from her forehead as she worked. "Time we don't have," Lisa replied, monitoring the countdown. "Maya, we have to go. Now." Maya looked at the screen showing thousands of beings throughout the station, all of them looking to her for salvation. She thought about her peaceful research on New Terra, about her dreams of scientific discovery and exploration. Those dreams seemed like they belonged to someone else now. "No," Maya said firmly. "I didn't come this far to abandon people at the end. Jake wouldn't leave them, and neither will I." With 30 seconds left on the countdown, Maya did something that surprised everyone, including herself. Instead of trying to hack the self-destruct system, she hacked into the station's main communication array and broadcast a message to every ship in the surrounding space. "This is Maya Rodriguez aboard the Crimson Coliseum," she said. "This station contains thousands of innocent beings who were enslaved and forced to fight for entertainment. In 20 seconds, it's going to explode unless someone helps us. I don't know if anyone out there cares about justice anymore, but if you do, now is the time to prove it." Maya closed her eyes and waited for the explosion, but it never came. Instead, the station shuddered as dozens of tractor beams locked onto its hull.